Hello, my name is Léon Beckx, and I'd like to tell you something about my upcoming workshop, Moving into Magic, which will take place the 3rd until the 6th of January next year, 2019, in Turku. So, Moving into Magic. We called it a retreat, a 4-day retreat. It's non-residential, and for me, um, I like to see it as a treat because we have 4 days to slow down, 4 days to dance, to play, to be creative and to be inspired. But more than that, it's a special time of the year. Just around this time of the year, just around this time when we enter the dark days, everything around us is sort of closing in. And for most of us, it's also a time when our agendas empty a little bit. So it's a perfect time actually to follow nature and slow down and sink in. And my wish for these 4 days is that we can sort of leave all the cluttering that we have and the weight, the extra weight that we carry with us, that we can leave that. And most of us, like myself, have quite busy lives or have lives that are filled with all kinds of responsibilities. And throughout the year, we slowly gather these things in our backpack, or we hold them in our body. We slightly get off track because we have to do things. We're in a doing mode. Da, 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 da. And so this is a time just to leave that all behind and just start to tune in. Start to tune in and sink beneath all the daily clutter. So in this 4-day retreat, we'll go into this process of slowing down and sinking. And we first do that actually by making space in the body. So we'll be doing quite mindful work of sort of putting these things that are in our head, that keeping us busy or that hold us back or give tension, just putting them outside and watching them. They're okay, they can return as soon as we finish, but for now we just make some space. But we also make space, of course, as dancers, by moving, by shaking, and by sweating it all out, just to sort of release a lot of pent up energy. And this space is not only something we do from the inside, we'll also create space between us, because it's my intention that we together create this space, which you could say is kind of a sacred space. Now, in a way, I don't like the word sacred because we can have all kinds of associations with it, but I do choose the word sacred because I feel it's important to create a space that has some dedication, that has some focus on leaving our daily consciousness, letting it sit on the back seat, but really take the time for our bigger self. I don't like to say higher self, but the self with the capital S, the self that we feel once we sink down and let all of the cluttering go. That kind of presence, that type of attention, once we have the opportunity to let that be. So I want to create a space, a sacred space, to come back to that, where this type of presence, this type of attention and consciousness, this type of awareness can be there in space. And we can do that on our own, but when we create that together, something really special can happen in that space. something else can also move in, and you can call it whatever you like. And for each of one of us, that might be very different. But space is needed for whatever's there to move in, to move out, to connect. So that's something that we'll be moving with. And then once we have that space, we'll see what happens. Actually, we step into the unknown. We move into the unknown. Because once we tune in here and sort of feel what wants to emerge, what wants to bubble up, and start to move that, we're moving on the edge between what we know and what we don't know, who we are and who we are becoming. So that's something, that edge is something that I'd like to find within us, between us, in the space. And once we have that edge, once we have access to that edge and see what kind of energy is there and what wants to move us forward, then we can play with that. And in this workshop, we'll play in many ways. So we work from theater to trance and everything in between to facilitate actually to tune in, to move, and to reconnect with our inner compass. So what my wish is for this workshop is actually that when you look back a year from now, so in 2020 or nearing 2020, that you think like, yeah, that's where it started, moving into magic. That's where it started. That's where I sort of start to nurture those seeds that blossomed in the year that followed. So there it is. I hope for those who already signed in, I really look forward to see you. And for those considering, well, I hope to see you and maybe another time. So thank you, and we see each other next year.